So the trope, they're anti-science and we're not, is false, objectively false, statistically in the communities. How about the one about being family values? That's a common trope lobbed against liberals by conservatives. Well, wait a minute. What would be a measure of family value? How about staying married? How about that? Do you know the state with the lowest divorce rate in the country? It's Massachusetts. By far the lowest divorce rate. Do you know the highest divorce rate?
Before we begin, please like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment below. Neil brings the facts and the numbers, and some people may not like what they reveal. Stay until the end, because this story takes an interesting turn. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I enjoy seeing viewers from around the world. Now, let's jump straight into it.
There's a chapter on color and race, so I go there in there. There's one on meat eaters and vegetarians. These are warring factions in society where people dig their heels in with strongly held opinions. And I just say, look, here's what that looks like to a scientist. And here's what it would look like coming from above. Yeah. And often the opinions just evaporate. They just, I'll give an example in the vegetarian meat eater chapter, okay? We all know vegetarians, and one of them, some might be vegetarians because they just don't want to kill animals, okay? All right, fine. So they have a humane mouse trap in their basement. You trap the mouse, and then what do you do after you capture it?
Eat it.
No. What do they do after they capture the mouse?
They let it go.
They take it back out to the woods to let it go.
And then it comes back in.
Well, wait, out to the woods where it is basically guaranteed to be swallowed whole by an owl or picked apart by a predator bird or eaten by a fox or any manner of woodland predators. And the average life expectancy of a mouse in the wild is about 18 months. So the safest thing for the mouse is to leave it in your basement, where it could live up to 6 years on full natural life. But that's not what happens. So the idea that you want to preserve life and you don't want to kill it, and you take it out and put it in the wild where it's guaranteed to be killed, that person possibly hasn't fully thought that through. Continuing, they're living in a house made of the wood from 50 trees, typically. Trees that would have lived 100 years. Each of those trees was home to birds, to squirrels, to insects, to mushrooms. To all manner of life forms are being sustained on each one of those trees. And each one of those 50 trees that was cut down to build your house, to make the floorboards, the 2x4s, the structural members, the siding, each one of those trees produces 15 times the mass of the mouse in oxygen every day. So what do you think nature cares more about? The tree or the 1-ounce mouse? Think about that. What has greater value to the ecosystem? The mouse you saved or the 50 tree? I would think so.
Of course.
But I don't want to force that opinion on people. But just when you analyze it, that's a cosmic perspective on decisions that you're making. I don't see you not buying a wooden house because you're worried about the trees that were made from it. So what it comes down to at some level, and how about the people who buy line-caught tuna? Do you know why they do that? Because if it's not line-caught, it's probably caught in a net. And net dragging sometimes brings in a dolphin, which are air-breathing, and then they suffocate and die. All right, so they want to kill dolphins. So they buy line-caught. So I'm thinking, all right, you saved the dolphin, but what about the tuna? Okay, you're eating the tuna, all right?
Who cares about the tuna? They only care about the dolphin.
They only care about well, why do you only care about the dolphin?
Because they've got a good personality.
Okay, wait, because they're cute and they're mammals.
Hello?
But wait a minute, if you're eating meat, you're probably also eating cow and pig and lamb that are also mammals. Okay, so what I try to do in the book is expose your opinion to other ways of looking at what it is you're doing. When you're done, I don't want to stop you from doing what you're doing, but if you do it, I want it to be fully informed.
This is what happens when a scientist challenges popular assumptions. Neil deGrasse Tyson brought up something most people never think about. He talked about vegetarians who catch a mouse and release it into the wild, believing they're doing the humane thing. But Neil pointed out a harsh reality. That mouse is far more likely to become food for a predator than survive for long. In fact, a mouse may live much longer in a basement than out in nature. His point wasn't to criticize vegetarians. It was to question decisions driven by feelings rather than evidence. And that's a pattern we see everywhere. People often react emotionally before looking at the facts. Then he expanded the argument. The average house requires dozens of trees to build, and each tree supports entire ecosystems while producing oxygen every day. So he asks a difficult question. What has the greater impact on nature, one tree or many mice? He followed with another example. People buy dolphin-safe tuna to protect dolphins, but rarely think about the tuna being caught and eaten. According to Neil, our compassion is often selective. We care more about certain animals because we relate to them. And that observation becomes even more important in what comes next.
Doing the math.
And it's a whole other chapter on conflict and resolution, where there are these tropes that liberals lob onto right-wingers. They, say, everyone on the right is anti-science and they're this. And they cite the denial of climate change, which is an existential threat. That's definitely a denial of some or all mainstream science. Also, occasionally there's denial of evolution. That typically is the extreme religious group. Okay, so the liberals want to feel like they have the high road, but they don't. Because let's look for who is taking homeopathic medicine that is deeply within the liberal community. This is medicine that has no curative molecules in it at all, having been diluted into that state. So there's like feather energy and chakra realignment and all manner of thinking and philosophies that are deeply embedded in the liberal world view, and to embrace them requires you reject some or all mainstream science associated with it. It requires that. And so therefore, the liberal cannot claim the high ground. This includes attitudes towards GMOs, for example. If you look at scientists, the percentage of scientists who are all in for GMOs, it closely matches the percentage of Republicans who are all in for GMOs, and the percentage of liberals who are in for GMOs is way less. So what's happening here, they'll cite, because of big pharma and this and that, whatever, but they're not aligned with the science on it. That's my point. If you want to say you're with the scientists, then you be with the scientists on GMOs, and they're not. All right? So it requires rejection of some or all mainstream science. So the trope, they're anti-science and we're not, is false, objectively false, statistically in the communities. How about the one about being family values? That's a common trope lobbed against liberals by conservatives. Well, wait a minute. What would be a measure of family value? How about staying married? How about that? Do you know the state with the lowest divorce rate in the country? It's Massachusetts. By far the lowest divorce rate. Do you know the highest divorce rate? It's in the book. Something like 8 out of the 10 highest divorce rate states voted red in the last elections. How about teenage pregnancies? Out of wedlock pregnancy and teenage pregnancies? Red states lead the pack in those numbers. The only presidents of the United States to have ever been divorced have been Republican presidents. And that's, of course, Trump,
Reagan,
and Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
So who are you to say and claim the high road of family values here when certain objective measures argue against it?
This is where Neil's argument comes full circle. After laying out all that data, he explains how people often pick facts that support what they already believe. He argues that political narratives are frequently built on perception rather than reality. Then he turns to cognitive bias. His point is simple. When people want something to be true, they repeat it often enough that others accept it without questioning it. According to Neil, repetition can be more powerful than evidence. He applies that idea to the claim that America was founded as a Christian nation. Neil argues that the Constitution itself does not establish a national religion and that the founders intentionally separated government from religious authority. He notes that the Constitution contains no direct reference to Jesus and only includes a traditional dating phrase referencing God. For Neil, the bigger lesson is not about choosing sides in politics. It is about challenging assumptions and testing claims against facts. He believes everyone has blind spots, but evidence has a way of exposing them. What do you think about Neil's perspective? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.
And so what I'm saying is you can cherry pick it and say, oh, the liberals, they're into like loose sex or whatever. You cherry pick that because liberals are staying married longer than you are. Okay? So in there, I'm just approaching all these as a scientist would. Look at the data. Look at the evidence you might have bias against. And now let me show it to you, reveal it to you. So there's a chapter on gender and identity, a chapter on life and death, body and mind, truth and beauty.
Is all this that you're saying?
I'm looking at the website right now, by the way. Divorce rates, it's, who's at the top, who's at the lowest.
Yeah, look at the highest divorce rate state. It's a red state. It's been red for every major election this century.
Arkansas, Oklahoma, Nevada, New Mexico, and the lowest one is Maine, D.C., Dakota, Pennsylvania, New York, Illinois.
No, Massachusetts should be in there.
Massachusetts is on that list as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So in other words, it's contradictions of both sides.
Correct.
To say relax.
Correct. Because they repeat it and want you to then think it's true.
Is it cognitive dissonance or is it hypocrisy?
It's cognitive bias. I don't want to say dissonance. It's just bias. You want something to be true, so you repeat it often enough until people who follow you think it's true. It's like saying we live in a Christian nation. That's actually an objectively false statement. Repeat it enough that you get enough people saying it on political platforms and talk shows and all manner of things.
Well, Reza Aslan, I don't know if you know who Reza Aslan is.
Yes, I do. Yes. Yeah.
He believes U.S. is a Judeo-Christian nation. That's a joke between us.
Oh, okay.
If he's watching this right now, he's losing his mind.
Yeah. If he say it, he can say it, but there's no mention of Jesus in our Constitution. There's not even mention of God in the document that forms our country. You would think if we knew we were self-aware as a Christian nation, there'd be some references to Jesus, who's the foundation of Christianity, but there isn't. There's one mention of God in the Constitution, but it's a very minor one. It's extremely minor.
What was it?
It's at the very end. Anno Domini 1789. That's the only mention. Which is the tradition of, it's AD.
This is where Neil's entire argument comes together. After presenting all the data, he explains how people often cherry-pick facts that support their beliefs while ignoring the rest. He points out that many political narratives are built more on perception than reality. Then he dives into cognitive bias. His point is simple. If people want something to be true, they repeat it often enough that others eventually accept it as fact. According to Neil, that's how many popular beliefs survive even when the evidence says otherwise. He uses the idea of America being a Christian nation as an example. Neil argues that the Constitution was intentionally written without establishing a national religion. While many founders were personally religious, they chose to separate government from religious authority. He notes that the Constitution contains no mention of Jesus and only includes a traditional dating reference. For Neil, the bigger lesson isn't about Republicans versus Democrats. It's about what happens when evidence replaces slogans. Every side has blind spots, but facts have a way of exposing them. So what do you think about Neil's perspective? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more content.